Raju Unti.
And coming up in business, we talk to an automotive trade association that's developing an all-Canadian zero-emission vehicle concept. 680 News Time, 7:31.
Time for traffic and weather.
Or by phone, dial pound 3636.
Traffic spotters are
Let's get back to business.
Hello, how may I help you?
Slowdowns, just heads up through there.
30-minute virtual consultation.
City streets, we had a crash in Mississauga, Erin Mills Parkway, Eglinton, getting cleaned up, and a fire investigation's underway at Carleton and Woodstock Place, that's east of Sackville. So Carleton closed down because of it. Active TO shutting down Bayview, front to Rosedale Valley Road. River closed Bayview to north of Gerrard at Spruce. Eastbound Lakeshore blocked off between Leslie and Woodbine. This should reopen at 9 o'clock tonight. Next report at 7:41 with the forecast. Here's Jason Fraser.
Well, it's been raining all day, and we can expect it to continue to rain not only this evening, but also in the overnight hours. Could end up seeing a quick pop-up thunderstorm as well as we drop down into the single digits. So some fog may also be possible in the overnight hours. Our overnight low tonight, 8 degrees.
And we're quite a bit warmer than that in downtown Toronto right now. 15 degrees and overcast. Over at Pearson International Airport, 15 degrees and overcast. 680 News Time, 7:32.
The province is taking a big step in the fight against COVID-19. It comes as several vaccination clinics north of the city have to close down because of supply. We'll have more on that in a moment.
But first, 680's Michelle Morton tells us that residents of several COVID hotspots can start to register for a vaccine tomorrow.
There's 2 days to note for this week. First, tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock, those 18 years and older can book a vaccine appointment at a mass immunization clinic. The province has listed 114 postal codes.
Can you smell the dead bodies on the wind? No. What the fucking hell? 4 pages in a row besides.
Older, their first shot by the end. And 32 new cases after over 45,300 tests were completed for a positivity rate of 8.5%, up slightly from Saturday. 23 more people have died, while more than 3,900 have recovered. People in ICUs remain at record pandemic highs, with 895 patients, 615 of them on ventilators. It comes as mass vaccination clinics at Canada's Wonderland, Georgina Ice Palace, and Richmond Green shut their doors Monday. York Region's top doctor citing a lack of vaccine supply for the one-day closure.
It isn't fair for us to keep on closing our clinics, and it isn't fair for us to not receive an equitable share when, in fact, the price of vaccines coming to the province are decreasing dramatically.
That's why Dr. Kareem encouraged to increase the region's supply by mid-May. I'm Michelle Mackey.
Ontario has reached an encouraging COVID-19 milestone this
find.
weekend. It all comes as more Pfizer doses from the United States are on the way. Officials expecting the shipment to arrive in Canada within the next few days. 40% of Ontarians have received their first dose.
Don't care. You've been talking
its own plan.
5 minutes straight, nothing but get your vaccine, get your vaccine, get your vaccine. Why? It doesn't work against what it needs to work against, and it's too late to get everyone vaccinated to make it work. So I ask again, can you smell the burning bodies on the wind? Because if you can't, you're fucking stupid.
Another week later.
If you feel all antsy and edgy, and so maybe you don't notice the smell consciously. You got them cat-like reflexes going crazy in your head. The smell of burning bodies is soaked up in the atmosphere all around the world right now.
We watched from the outside, praying his 83-year-old father, Van Kim Ha, would survive the storm. What are you thinking as you're watching this on the news?
I'm thinking you better be putting in protocols to protect those who haven't been infected.
Tender Care did have a plan in place in case there was an outbreak. It had been in writing since the spring, when the first wave
Oh, you had
deadly COVID
you had an emergency plan for a whole couple months, eh? Wow.
Use a vacant wing of the 4th floor to isolate any residents who were positive.
Vacant wing.
Toronto Public Health
To isolate the ones that are positive. Hold on. What happens when there's more positives than negatives, morons?
Staff like this personal support worker, whose identity we've agreed to protect,
Because they're
say they were briefed on the plan at meetings.
They told us time and time again, in case of anything, the residents would...
Why am I turning it down? Because they pick and choose which voice actor to play to tell you how to think about the person. Holy fuck, man.
3 and 4 people was vulnerable.
What they were doing, and I was so upset, they were moving the residents from unit.
It's a whitewashing, almost good as white-black person. Thank you. That's what I want to hear when this is happening. I'm not listening to this part. You fucked it up. We're uncovering important issues. Yeah, but you're putting your own racist slant on them.
An email from the Home to Families the following day said, "We've agreed to move all residents positive with COVID-19 to our 4th floor. We have 20 vacant rooms." But the 4th floor was never used.
Everybody was like stunned because the residents weren't moving to the 4th floor.
And what did they say to you? What was the answer?
I think they weren't prepared. They were just talking, but there was nothing being done.
I think they weren't prepared. So first thing, make an excuse for the white people. There was nothing being done. Yes, there was. They were purposely making people sick like they've been trying to do here. Documenting this for 2 fucking years, just this SARS thing.
And 680 News is working for you, getting you answers to anything you might want to know about COVID-19.
Getting you answers to anything you might want to know about COVID-19. You don't know this, but they've been running that line for a long time. Now it's only COVID-19 questions.
So if we get an abundant vaccine supply,
vaccine supply. If we have enough vaccines, we can shorten the interval. Oh yeah, of course. If you have twice as much, you can give it out twice as fast. Do you have anything scientific to say? Why aren't you talking about India?
If we get abundant vaccine supply, for sure.
She just repeated herself word for word.
You can go to our website, 680news.com/COVID answers. Vilchat Berman, 680 News.
You're listening to All News Radio 680 News at 7:38. Tomorrow, Brampton is starting its new trial to demonstrate the efficiency of battery electric buses in the city. Now, Brampton will begin a virtual launch of the program on Monday, and it's part of the...
So, you hear them electric buses? Do you hear me bitching about these electric buses? And no, they're noisy as hell. First of all, they're dangerous. Yeah, you ever see one crash and catch fire? The battery on a bus is 10 times what it would be on a Tesla. 4 hours of burning 30,000 gallons of water. Doesn't put the fire out. Doesn't. It burns out when it wants. So we've already proven in Toronto it won't work. You can run them off of overhead wires or fuel cells, hydrogen fuel cells. They do that in Vancouver. But these batteries are not going to work. Not here, they aren't.
To help maintain your good health. All three.
The one good thing about them is if you had electricity, but you did not have a reliable fuel supply, perhaps. But
these products may not be right for you. Always read and follow the label.
Well, remember, these buses are supposed to show how clean and efficient nuclear energy is.
Under $1.30 a liter at most GTA stations. Your traffic and weather reports are 60 seconds away.
680 News Time, 740.
McDonald's Egg McMuffin is made with a freshly cooked egg. But wait, there's also a bacon and egg McMuffin and a sausage and egg McMuffin. Right now, they're just $3 each.
They said it rained all day. I've been up for about an hour. Bright sun, it's hot, and the sidewalks are all dry. I don't see no fucking rain. So I don't trust them at all right now.
Is now open by appointment at the 401 and Dixie Road. Just minutes from the 427, our new facility features multiple showrooms, a state-of-the-art service center, and more. Audi innovation
of this policy. If you don't get sick days, you have no sick days in the bank, you won't get paid.
Management didn't say to you, if you're sick, we'll still pay you to stay home.
No, I'm not going to pay you to stay home.
On Christmas Day.
It's a black woman with the white woman voice, accent, as the actor. That's great. That's helpful. She's not talking like a PSW. She's talking like a radio voice actor. We've concealed her identity. You've got someone else reading her lines.
I know we stepped in right up.
Or she's a bootlicker. Always that possibility.
The South 400 south of Highway 89, where left lane's blocked off. And then a fire investigation on city streets. Carlton is closed at Woodstock Place. That's east of Sackville for this fire. Open a CIBC Smart account and get $300 plus pay no monthly fee for up to 12 months. That's Everyday Smart from CIBC. Conditions apply. Learn more online. Next report at 7:51 with the forecast. Here's Jason Fraser.
Lots of clouds are expected around the GTA tonight, and we will likely end up seeing another round of some rain showers, even a thunderstorm. Low of 8 degrees, and then we'll see some fog develop after the midnight hour, and some scattered rain showers are possible throughout the day tomorrow. High of 12 degrees. We'll go down to 9 by tomorrow night, and the rain showers will likely continue. Our overnight low tonight, 8 degrees.
Right now in downtown Toronto, it is 15 degrees and overcast. Over at Pearson International Airport, it is also 15 degrees and overcast.
Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, also commemorating Orthodox Easter, issuing a statement today on social media. He says on this holy day, family and
including at the beginning of the outbreak, when they documented widespread problems with infection prevention and control and improper use of PPE. Tendercare told
How do all you Orthodox people feel about Justin Trudeau putting on brown face and black face?
This is a disaster zone and moved in as soon as their inspectors sent in their report.
It was early January, fully a month into the outbreak, when James Ha got the news he had been dreading.
My worst nightmare came to reality when I learned the beginning of January that he was infected.
His father was transferred to hospital, where he would spend 3 weeks before returning to Tendercare, a much more frail version of himself. COVID had ravaged his body and, coupled with dementia, robbed him of his ability to swallow.
And then yesterday,
the mice ravaged my tomatoes.
Or call 1-888-999-6488 for assistance in 300 languages, paid for by the Government of Ontario.
Be the first to know. Breaking news.
As Desjardins,
Wow, you followed your commercial break with a commercial break. That's crazy.
your designer shoes, those limited edition glasses, that collection of animal plush toys from the 90s that's as priceless as it is adorable. Snuggle up, you big softie. We've got you.
40.
I will give him a card if he wants to speak to you, but
Deferred our questions to the management company, Extendicare. Its CEO, Michael Guerrero,
Extendicare nursing home fire, 1980. 30 people died. There was a coroner's inquest. There was a review of the inquest. And my grandfather chaired the committee that held that review.
Email response. Tendercare and Extendicare said they responded immediately and through every available channel to get the supports needed to the home. But
The Extendicare nursing home fire, essentially, all the people that worked there went outside and looked up and went, gee, how come all the old people aren't getting up and running outside from the fire? I know you people hate me. I'm the person that points out fire traps. Okay? I get accused of being an arsonist all the time, except for to my face the last couple of years. But no one wants to hear when you point out fire traps. They don't want to hear it.
experienced symptoms today. Other workers took COVID home.
Monday due to a shortage. And coming up after sports.
A strain of bacteria found under a German garbage heap could help us solve our plastic waste problem. This Week in Science, coming up.
680 News Time, 7:45.
There is deep sorrow among those who stepped foot inside Tendercare during those harrowing 8 weeks. And a growing sense of frustration that we should have done better.
there are major gaps, very, very serious gaps in the system that are letting these people down. And some of us went in to try to fill those gaps. This wasn't a gap that we could fill. There was a systemic failure somewhere in the system that allowed it to come to the levels that it had come to when we walked in.
Coming up on the new reality.
At each opportunity over the course of the pandemic, when it came to long-term care home residents, we really never missed an opportunity to let them down.
Did we do enough before the second wave hit
to ready ourselves?
No, obviously not.
At True Tone Electronics, we know this has been a difficult time for everyone. Your safety is our #1 priority. Our showroom is currently closed, but our professional staff are available via email at sales@truetone.ca or by phone at 905-270-3440 to answer any questions. Please visit truetone.ca to place your orders. We're offering curbside pickup at our location at 980 Dundas Street East in Mississauga. Our dedicated staff are doing everything possible to keep our clients safe. From all of us at True Tone Electronics, stay safe.
Ontario's COVID-19 vaccine plan is helping to stop the spread and save lives. Until we're all vaccinated, we need to stay the course. Wear a mask. Wash your hands. Keep your distance. We've come so far together, and thousands of people across Ontario are getting vaccinated every day. Your turn is coming soon. Visit ontario.ca/COVID vaccine plan or call 1-888-999-6488 for assistance in 300 languages. Paid for by the Government of Ontario.
Just missed the top of the hour news? Get caught up in less than 60 seconds. Just add the flash briefing skill to Alexa, then set it to play 640 Toronto. And don't forget, you can listen to us live anytime by telling any smart speaker to play 640 Toronto.
Reopen your business to customers safely. Join the growing number of businesses turning to Nano Nation, a disinfectant process that kills viruses on contact, including the COVID-19 virus. Nano Nation is a Health Canada approved hospital-grade persistent protection electrostatic process that is applied to all surfaces, including frequently touched and hard-to-reach areas, and is 99.9% effective. Our application of Nano Nation's BioProtect solution coating is proven to last for up to 90 days. To have your location serviced, visit nanonationcanada.com.
Hey, Gugu, what do you tell a teenager about cannabis?
Okay, I'm playing Haboot Canopy. Music.
Okay, Gugu, stop the music.
Looking for tips on how to talk with your teens about cannabis? Visit drugfreekidscanada.org. From New Delhi resident Sakshi Kumar was relieved to be getting her vaccine.
So now I think this is going to be a good thing so that we don't get infected again.
India's states and federal governments are expected to take on the task of immunizing 900 million Indian adults, as the price of private vaccinations proves too high for the majority of the population. Meanwhile, the UK government said it will send an additional 1,000 ventilators to India, and Britain's National Health System is creating an advisory group to share its expertise with
One
Indian
for every million people. Wow.
South of the border,
Smell?
prosecutors are
Do you
asking
smell
a
the
judge
dead bodies?
to give Derek Chauvin a penalty that's more severe than state guidelines call for when he is sentenced in June for George Floyd's death. ABC's Mark Remillard explains.
Prosecutors have filed a memo with 5 reasons why they say Derek Chauvin should be given an aggravated sentence for the murder of George Floyd. They say Floyd was particularly vulnerable, given that he was handcuffed and on the ground. They say the treatment of Floyd was particularly cruel. They say Derek Chauvin abused his position of authority as he was in uniform at the time. They say he committed the crime as part of a group.
You see one of the other reasons I do this? It makes me think twice sometimes about stabbing you people in the fucking neck, eh?
Chauvin was convicted of murder and manslaughter. 680 News Time, 7:49. Well, millions of tons of plastic waste enter the world's oceans and landfills each year. And even if we catch it all, a lot of it is tough to recycle. But as 680's Curtis Doring reports,
none of it gets recycled.
Under a trash heap in Germany could lead to a solution.
It's hard to overstate just how many things we can make using polyurethane.
So when they talk about Toronto's polyurethane bridges,
the problem though is that most of these plastics don't melt when you heat them up, making them too difficult or energy intensive to recycle or destroy. So a lot of it just ends up at the dump.
so they're not thermoplastics. You could have said that they're thermoset plastics.
But it turns out there's a creature that actually eats this stuff. A strain of
we know it eats crude oil too.
Just recently discovered at a plastic waste site near the German city of Leipzig. This bacterium is able to take some of the chemical components of polyurethane and use them as a sole source of carbon, nitrogen, and energy. While exciting, this won't solve our plastic waste problem by itself, and it could be a decade before we start putting it to good use. In the short term, our best
you start putting it to good use. It's sitting there eating the plastic already. It's already sitting there eating plastic.
In 60 seconds, we'll have traffic and your extended forecast. 680 News Time, 7:50.
If you're driving less these days, I've got good news and bad news.
news. Good news, you're saving on gas. Bad news, a vehicle that sits may develop issues. Good news, the all-in spring event has you covered. Receive a free seasonal tire changeover and brake inspection with the purchase of Peace of Mind maintenance service. Plus, get $20 off Mopar or Magnetic Morelli brakes when you sign up for Mopar exclusives. And buy 3 tires, get the 4th free. See your Quester, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram dealer for details. We built it, we know it. At jackpotcity.net, you can do amazing things with just one casino chip. Discover a world of incredible casino games with over 500 high-quality online slot games, including the world-renowned progressive jackpot slot, Mega Moolah. Play for free at jackpotcity.net and get treated as a VIP 24/7. So visit jackpotcity.net today on your tablet, laptop, or mobile.
Internal documents with insights from the first wave said homes were significantly under-resourced to meet IPAC standards to protect basic needs of residents. So Katz and a team of IPAC leaders from hospitals across Toronto went to the government with a proposed solution. Hospitals would tap into their existing expertise, hire new staff, and lead IPAC programs in long-term care homes. But months went by without any response.
Things did not happen quickly.
Do you have any idea why?
I don't.
At the same time, Donna Duncan with the Ontario Long-Term Care Association was also sounding the alarm. You put a call out to the Ontario government for, quote, an army of infection prevention and control specialists. Did the army come? Well, one army came. But they weren't infection prevention and control specialists. Yeah. We didn't get the army that we called for.
What do you mean?
It wasn't until November,
What did you
into
get?
the second wave, that long-term care homes were given the details of the government's plan for infection control. Hospitals would support homes with 2/3 of the requested funding, but homes were still responsible for running their own program. We needed help, and we still need help. Without proper IPAC training, outbreaks became monstrous. Fearful workers were leaving and falling ill. Staffing levels were crumbling. In Quebec, the government acted swiftly between waves, launching a program in June that fast-tracked the training of nearly 8,000 workers to serve in an assisting role. Ontario was also discussing staffing after the first wave. Internal documents.
Now, this is supposed to be an expose, but they're using the
and there was a suggestion to look at the Quebec
how do I put it? They're romanticizing almost. It's the wrong word.
Oh,
in between waves. That's not a thing.
What we didn't do was take the big steps.
Yeah, the Quebec government was like, yeah, there's another wave coming, so we're going to do this in between them. No, they didn't.
Laura Tamblin-Watts is the president of CanAge, a seniors advocacy organization.
And she won't mention the extended care nursing home fire. She won't mention it.
Provide basic care.
I remember a conversation with a woman who was left in a hallway. She was put in a chair that had a restraint over it. It looked like a tray, but it meant she couldn't get up. And she was left there for most of the day without food and without water.
It wasn't until the second wave was ending that the Ontario government announced free tuition and accelerated training for 6,000 new personal support workers. Dr. Nathan
What did I tell
is a
you?
geriatrician with Sinai Health.
It's the same way they did it here. Free tuition. That's how you got all these assholes. And by the way, once you got the fucking...
Show off infection prevention and control, and it would have been to decrowd.
You're now a PSW handwritten on a piece of paper. You can go work there.
Those 3 issues.
Crowded homes weren't created by this pandemic, but they are the perfect place for spreading a virus.
That wasn't the
And there are
problem.
nearly 11,000 people living in 3- and 4-bedrooms.
Airflow. It's always airflow. I know you people hate to believe this. Oxygen is necessary
And built tens of
for our
thousands
type
of new
of life.
beds, but never came close.
Our homes crashed because of decades of neglect. None of us held our politicians accountable for making the changes.
Our home. None of us held somebody else accountable. Our homes are fucked up. Somebody else's fault. That's another
We
time.
didn't have the money behind the commitment that politicians and bureaucrats had made. The money just wasn't there.
But surely they knew how much it was going to cost.
Well,
yes. I mean, no politician makes a promise without having a back of the paper napkin assessment of cost.
In the face of crowded
Less than
rooms
not
and a
doing
highly
it.
contagious virus, some parts of the province got creative. In Windsor, the hospital opened 100 beds inside the local college's sportsplex. In Toronto, the Salvation Army teamed up with the province to create 90 beds inside a convention center. But these were the exceptions.
Remember, that sportsplex, up until now, never considered as using it for old people. No, the old people stay in the closet. This is where we throw balls back and forth.
Innovations that could have been done to protect residents.
In its recent spring budget, the Ford government reaffirmed its commitment to create 30,000 beds over the next decade and says it's 60% there. It also struck a committee to examine the recovery of the sector, including effective IPAC practices, emergency staffing, and decrowding.
18,000.
But by then, the second wave was over.
At each opportunity over the course of the pandemic.
How was it over?
When it came to long-term care home residents, we really never missed an opportunity to let them down.
We never missed an opportunity to let them down.
Yeah, we never missed an opportunity. Why was this sector so neglected, and why did nobody act on what was learned in the first
Because you all do the same thing. I don't care about them old people. And then when it's your turn to go there, you all do the same thing. All these people talking, gonna end up there.
Hi, it's Fido. When it comes to downloading maps.
How do I know all these people talking are gonna end up there? It's very simple. You have to have a certain minimum level of income and social status to live that long, but not one of you is an owner of anything. You're not Belinda Stronach, you're not fucking Galen Weston, so you will not have enough money to just magically take care of you once your brain goes and your body goes. No, you won't. So you will end up in the long-term care home again. People like me, we either die before then or end up in the public long-term care home. So what's the fucking difference to us? It's no different than a homeless shelter, hospital, or school to us. My grandfather that served in the army, my grandfather that wrote the report, chaired the report on the extended care nursing home fire, died in his living room in London, Ontario, in a house he owned, reading the newspaper, and his wife left the room and came back later and he was gone. My other grandfather, we use the term complicated. Your dad is complicated. My aunt is like, yeah, we knew that. His body went. His brain went too, but his body went. He outlived his body. Just fucking outlived his body. He drank too much and smoked too much. Not his whole life, but throughout his life he did that. But then again, he served in Korea and put up with this government's bullshit and the U.S. government's bullshit. You're not a citizen anymore. Really. He died in a long-term care home, a public long-term care home in the fucking neighborhood. In the fucking neighborhood. We could walk there to go visit if we... And they took good care of him from what I seen. It looked like a relatively happy, nice place. Like there was no, like, I don't know how to put this. When we came into the front door and then walked over to where his room was, it wasn't like there was a big long corridor and they're hidden at the back or something. Like anybody could have walked in the front door and like not just anybody could walk through. Anybody could have walked in the front door and seen if something was happening or not happening. If I remember correctly, there was 4 beds in that room, but only 3 people in it and 1 washroom. But it wasn't like a little tiny room, you know. For these people, if you separated them off into their own, each individual room, they'd be sitting there alone all day doing nothing, driving crazy. But his health failed. And the one time I went that I was there, I remember his eyes lit up looking right at me. And next to him looked like there was a pillow under the blanket. It wasn't a pillow, it was his liver. But the nurses that took care of him, black nurses. Black nurses. Oh. Extended care thing.
If someone's crashed into that statue, it's a public safety issue. I'm gonna get this down.
Oh, everybody does the same damn thing. Like it doesn't matter till it's their turn. Then they go, oh, I don't mean that everybody this happened to in these homes is like it's their own fault, but a lot of people know about this shit. That fire happened 40 years ago, 1980, 40 years ago. So if you were 20 then, you'd be 60 now. You'd be just about the right age to be going in these places. What did you do back then about this? Nothing.
And we get real wild with it. Practice aim all out.
4TG, nigga. Free ox, nigga. 75.
Technically, that was already running when I pressed that.
Nigga, yo, niggas turn religious. That's so low while he forsake them. When he see that shotgun, he hope it don't take him. Watch his soul rise to the sky. Niggas talk a lot of shit till they leave the crib and die. You think my life is a joke? 3 niggas, 60 nights, you get rapidly posted. They don't fuck with G-Lock cause they don't wanna get smoked. I'm from the 7-5 block and yeah, I live by the oath. Take this shit as a game, put the pipe to your frame. I take the face off your head, nigga, simple and plain. Your baby mom fucked the squad without knowing our name. She was down for the train, if you know what I'm saying. Yo, and we get real wild with it. Practice aim all ops. Used to bet who could hit them. In my squad full of dogs, nigga, get them. Up at AM, come to try and get them. Tryna stack what that you move with a forklift. Stop the nigga with a pitchfork and broke forklifts. And I'm the type to give mine to the poor kids. I just do it and I stay strapped like Air Force City. I'm in the back and on my laps where the force sits. My bitch greased up and bust hard like a corn flip. You niggas sweet, I should call you niggas cornflakes. I'll ride through your block and start lighting up the whole place. My head's hot, but I still cause a cold case. A couple bodies under my belt, but show no face. This 12 gauge, I leave this nigga with no face. Found in an unknown place, walking off at my own base. Fuck a drive-by, I'll just walk by and cruise and soak his whip up. It's like how much you think you're nigga. You know I got choked too. Keep a knife as well, but it's no joke if I'ma poke you. Yeah. The 4TG, nigga. Free ox, nigga. 7-5 block, nigga. Yo, niggas turn religious after low while he forsake them. When he see that shotgun, he hope it don't take him. Watch your soul rise to the sky. Niggas talk a lot of shit till they leave the crib and die. You think my life is a joke? 3 niggas, 60 nights, you. Days like this, you know what I'm saying? Just wanna go right back to sleep and wake up. You know what I mean? Yeah, well, this sun is shining, right? At least we breathe.
All you can smell is dead bodies and the skin culture from the unions.
More problems is all I need. This the last blunt, I'm blowing all my weed. I can't stand with no trees in my yard. Brand new bin, somebody keep my car, then the phone rang. Smoke your ass. Then I dropped the iPhone, damn, I broke the glass. When I was too broke for gas, nobody wanna smoke me. Cops roll past, hope they don't smell the smoke heat, you know? I guess I'm just weary of cops. Then I stepped the door, fucked up my Jeremy Scott. Had to switch it up, put on a pair of white trees, then I jumped in the bins. Damn, where my kids? Shit, I can't find where my kids. I guess I gotta check my chick Prius. At least it don't take a lot of gas. Last night I lost my bank card, a nigga out of cash. Mama said to be days like this when you ain't even got enough trees to blaze one split. Then this crazy chick, she saw the stream.
You ever have that little tiny piece of weed? You go, fuck.
Me a scumbag. It's way too early to disturb the neighbors. Then I walked outside and got served with papers. All I need is another lawsuit, and it started raining. There goes my uncle lawsuit. This is sake my day, my day. 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 Mama said to me days like this when you ain't even got enough trees to blaze one split. This is sake my day, my day. day. This is make my day. So now I'm drenched in the rain, like somebody trying to throw a wrench in the game. Not to mention I'm late for a meeting. Mad traffic on the major deacon. Tomorrow is a holiday and it's a major weekend. Got a call from the homie. Today he supposed to give me back some money that he owed me. He making up excuses like, come on son, you know me. We've been through it all, so I know you're gonna hold me. Yeah, to make a long story short, I dipped in a dive. Should I could rob a bank, man, the way a nigga drive. I arrived at my meeting, 30 minutes late, they talking about they want to cancel and set another day. The brother waited 2 months to make this shit happen. Came back to the car, another ticket in Manhattan. It's like when you think it is, when you ain't. My law fucked up, my leaned on wet paint, man. Shit, this is take my day, my day. This is take my day, my day. This is take my day.
Now picture a bunch of guys in orange jumpsuits off Sesame Street with the Oscar the Grouch garbage can. The Reeks and Rex. Come on, what just happened? Motherfucker. Oh, this is good. Yeah, okay. Well. Is there a reason we're not doing this?
My day, this is day, my day, my day. Mama said to me days like this, when you ain't even got enough trees to blaze my split. This is take my day, my day. This is take my day, my day. Man, this is crazy, man. You know what I'm saying? I'm about to go back to the crib. This is fucked up, son. I need to smoke it. Let's go to the motherfucking spot, dude. Yeah, man, Coach Red, man. Gotta get my mind right.
The Tories tabled a motion for the Prime Minister to dismiss his Chief of Staff, Katie Telford. It came after another of the Prime Minister's advisors suggested Telford knew about the allegation against General Jonathan Vance 3 years ago. That motion is one of 3 that the Tories can choose to go to a vote in the House of Commons on Tuesday. The Commons Defense Committee is preparing to resume debate over whether to call Telford to testify. Trudeau last week defended Telford. Blake Lambert, The Canadian Press.
If you're feeling the pandemic blues during lockdown, don't worry.
The Canadian Press is a pill press.
40% of Canadians say the pandemic has taken a toll on their mental health. From May 3rd to the 9th is Canadian Mental Health Week, sponsored by the Canadian Mental Health Association.
Starts tomorrow. Thanks for telling us.
Body this one, man. I murdered him.
We'll fucking die.
Hey. This broke man has to catch up. They give you 10,000 real life. Back in the day when a nigga had a spinner, all these fake niggas acting like a dick cuts. Yeah, clocking back and let it rip, it won't be a first. In the hood with my gun, niggas know I lurk. Yeah, back in the day when a nigga had a spinner, all these fake niggas acting like a dick cuts. Yeah, clocking back and let it rip, it won't be a first. In the hood with my gun, niggas know I lurk. Yeah, all these fake niggas holler when I'm up, never wanna start in my hill. Some round table shit, dog. What up, God? Peace. Yeah. Something like Michael Corley in the future in the morning, tears holler for that work like a rooster. They screaming, I tell them that the shot's open. Boom with a pit by the door, we cut a lock's broken. Don't get your hand bit off, I'm bottom high smoking. Listen to a killer when he tell you that he's not joking. Them rocks potent, got these fiends stiff. Fish got that mean whip. Run it all on Queen like Supreme Griff. For that triple beam dream, you know machines drip. In the sticker, get that clean grip, the magazines clip. Got 5 steamed fish with a rice and peas. A couple righteous thieves, cypher while I like the trees. Them trifling bees stinging niggas with their quadstep. Try stinging me, I'm burning down the whole wasp nest. This grand flow, I came to pay the rent. You know it's hard out here for a pimp. Bitch, to live and die, and you know I swear to blow out my bloodstream. Kicklin to Kennedy, shout out to all my sub teams. Squeeze the torch, being cold, be the North Border. Toronto Raptors pressure niggas like the fourth quarter. Long and short orders, holler, we can get you that. These puddles deep in muddy, watch when you step through that.
My niggas in them full black suits, we let the men in black. You trying to tag game niggas, I wouldn't question that. We marksmen, head to the field, vicious to test the strapper. Leaving off the war, young as one roll, but left them back. Your girl says she waiting for you, but she woke up. Finding out of one love, it's prank call and snow cone. We sober, show out, finna go work, you go out. Considering it no lies, we don't work for no boss. Pussy be splashed in at the side, baby. Make the trick, get the paint through raw paper.
I should have to worry about I should have to worry about I should have to worry about Don't worry, who gon' ride for me? Who gon' ride? Who gon' cause a homicide for me? Better shoot if the boys try to slide on me. But I ain't worried, cause you know I keep that 9 on me. And if you fuck with them, then homie, I can fuck with you. You could be my homie, but I don't at you. You know I ain't a snake, just don't know what to do. You know I keep my tape, ain't got nothing to prove. I know my place can't think with a clear mind state. I know to pop it off when it's bright day. Before that, I used to knuckle up on a hot day. The straps in the whip, so buckle up so it's not big. Now draft safe. No reps, we were sharing the bar. I used to sell mad soap behind Sheridan Mall.
Buckle up so it's not bait.
Back to the south side fiends, they was mad as fuck. A truck farm OG tried to bag me up, and I won't lie, he had a blade and tried to stab me up. Grabbed me by my neck and told me, little nigga, hand me up. You could tell by the look in my eyes, I fear nada. He looked away, I bust his head with a beer bottle. Everything I do is dedicated to the block. I don't pay my dues, I ain't gotta say a lot. I got a full clip, then it's filled to the top. I ain't gotta say a word about them niggas that I shot. I should have to worry who gon' ride for me. Who gon' ride, who gon' cause a homicide for me. I better shoot if them boys try to slide on me. But I ain't worried, cause you know I keep that 9 on me. And if you fuck with them, then homie, I can fuck with you. And you could be my homie, but I don't bet you. You know I ain't a snake, just don't know what to do. You know I keep my tape, ain't got nothing to prove.
The pandemic, many black businesses in Little Jamaica are in dire need. Matt Lowe and community organizations like Black Urbanism Toronto are hoping these new plans will create more opportunities for black ownership and put a spotlight.
What happened to these millions and billions of dollars for black businesses?
Coming up in just 60 seconds, we're going to take a look at your top stories, followed by sports.
But all these white people swear up and down, oh, look at what we did for you.
Everybody's looking for a change right now.
They'll all swear up and down, look at what we did for you. One, the money never showed up. Two, it came from the Indian Capital Trust accounts. So there's more money in Indian Capital Trust accounts than Canada's entire debt. There's about twice as much. From the bar.
Flyest niggas since kindergarten. Liars. Shoot stupid kids been retarded. I make the coke black when I'm in the market. I make the price drop like I'm in the target. I'm like a holy prophet trying to make a profit. Rough rider, let legendary prospect. I ain't where I yet. Shout out my gunman friend, yo. 10-4 buys in my extender. 2 extra clips for the extra shit. And each whole 7, you getting blessed with it. Yeah, I got so much beat, my ex was stressed with it. Right, it was eye for an eye, Old Testament.
There's an awareness that we have our jobs, we're working, we can't manage it all. So I love that they're trying to troubleshoot at that time, and that's the time. So you're right, the teachers who are doing it right have an awareness of that. The ones that are not, like, you can't just stick a 5 in front of a YouTube video and expect them to, like, regulate themselves. No, right? It's not.
They have to be regulated. Someone has to tell them how to
I'm at. Last year I had a house full of dropouts, and I'm just waiting. I'm waiting for that moment to come. So far, they've still been
2 years in a row, kids just got rubber stamp passed.
And I know
and
that
you're
it's
still putting that on the kid.
Happen, and I can feel it coming. I can feel I'm done. I'm done. You know, I can feel it.
You're not old enough to take care of children. I can tell.
I don't want to. I'm waiting.
Yeah,
I'm waiting.
Yeah, totally. I just feel like we're so close, right? We're in the end of April. Like they already bumped school to only go till what, June 14th or something like that. Anyway.
Oh, really? Change it?
Oh, maybe it's different for our school here where we are.
Oh,
so we had like a little weekend break in March, and then April break for a week, and then they shortened the school year by a week. Oh, hi.
Oh,
here they are.
Now you got all your boys there.
Yep.
Sarah's got all the boys with her.
I'm
wedding on his older brothers. He's like, hey, Luigi and Giorgio, why don't you come join us?
You can hear what we're saying. You can hear what.
So we've got Giorgio joining us now. Okay. Giorgio, how old are you?
Well, can you hear? Put it in. You can talk to Tina and Miranda. She asked how old you are.
Series with Oakland.
You're 7.
I can't see you though. Come in.
Oh, there you go.
There you go.
And now we lost them.
Oh, we lost her.
we lost Sarah, guys. This is the joy. This is just one of the many joys of working from home with our kids. Sarah's coming back, trying to do the radio show from home, right? Like,
yeah. And you know, Tina, I just got myself a new puppy. What was I thinking?
I know, right? So we've got Sarah back with her boys, and then with Sarah sideways now. There she is. Hey guys. But this is it. This is real life. You know, the parents listening at home are probably like, yeah, like, you know, you tune into
all
radio
using the same shitty software. That's your fault.
That's
not the kid. Again, not the kid's fault. That's your fault. Again.
It makes sense, right? Yeah. And yeah, I don't know. I don't even know what to say. My brain is not working anymore.
Yeah,
I don't know how it is for you guys.
Should not be in charge of kids. I think I just
no,
said
it's that font. What do we call it though?
I was clicking on this other station and it never changed. Oh, so much for that.
You know, like you're sitting in that daily acceptance of things, and it makes your brain foggy. It's kind of like whatever, your brain is foggy. You're not like, you don't really have much motivation, so we're not like really creative. It's creative, like that is languishing, basically.
We're not creative. That's the word.
It's just like you're
where the mushrooms come in. No.
Yeah, exactly. You
got the mushrooms.
You want to be a mythical.
In red, signals to first responders a medical history that requires extra care. Ottawa Police Rob Bernier tells Hour to give the Medical Alert bracelets immediately provide vital life-saving information, especially when the person wearing it can't speak.
There's often key families living with autism, the different forms of dementia, including Alzheimer's, people living with fetal alcohol spectrum disorder or acquired brain injury.
The Ottawa Police Service and Medical Alert share a Connect and Protect data bank to help first responders easily access medical information ranging from allergies, mental health to Alzheimer's, or a need for a certain type of medication. Deborah Ryder, City News.
The mayor of Calgary, Naheed Nenshi, is fuming as COVID cases continue to rise and anti-lockdown groups continue to flaunt pandemic protocols.
Do the right thing.
Don't wait for government to tell you what to do. Don't wait for the province to put in more restrictions.
After new restrictions were announced, it seemed as though there were more rallies and anti-restriction protests this weekend. Calgary Police Deputy Chief Chad Tufik says they are working with other agencies across the province to enforce compliance with the new rules.
We continue to work with our partners in Alberta Health Services, with Alberta Justice, to try to address any gaps in the system around enforcement, and our officers will continue to respond to these calls, the rallies and demonstrations, and seek compliance. That's our goal. We want people to comply with public health orders.
On Saturday, Alberta reported 2,433 new cases of COVID-19. This is the third day in a row that the daily case count has been over 2,000. I'm Kayla Brooke.
Traffic and weather a mere minute away. 680 News Time, 8:20.
When you donate your unwanted vehicle to KindyCar, all proceeds stay in Canada. That means your spring cleaning could be helping people across.
Who is from South Carolina and the only Black Republican in the Senate, fervently declared that, quote, America is not a racist country, end quote. That line triggered days of debate over racism in this country, but we wanted to focus on another line from Scott's speech, one that also caused a controversy in political circles.
Just last week, a national newspaper suggested my family's poverty was actually privilege because a relative owned land generations before my time.
That newspaper is the Washington Post. Recently, the paper's fact checker, journalist and editor Glenn Kessler, looked into Senator Scott's so-called origin story, and he joins us now to talk about his reporting and why his story seemed to kick up so much dust. Glenn Kessler, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us.
Glad to be with you.
So I understand that this is a story that Senator Scott tells often on the campaign trail and in public events where he's talking about himself. I mean, it's something that I think a lot of public figures do. They have kind of a story of their lives that they share. What made you want to look into the backstory, and how'd you do it?
Well, we often look at origin stories because it sheds a light on the politician, and and sometimes it gets a little too tidy for political consumption. So that makes it interesting in terms of fact checking. And we ended up looking at a variety of census and property records. The article acknowledges that Senator Scott may not have known his full family history and that the census records regarding the lives of Black Americans can be inconsistent. But some critics have twisted that appropriate caution to suggest that all of the documentation in the article is suspect. I also obtained property and other records that expanded on the information in the census, and those records are not in dispute. And those property records show how much land his great-grandfather purchased. And he appears to have been one of the biggest landowners, white or Black, in Aiken County at the time.
Yeah, in your fact check article, you talk about both Tim Scott's consistent references to his grandfather, who, quote, dropped out of elementary school to work in the fields and pick cotton, and Scott's past acknowledgement of this great-great-grandfather who owned a substantial amount of land, 900 acres in South Carolina.
Call that substantial?
I would think that might be something to be proud of.
That's not even a farm today.
Did you have an inkling that Senator Scott would be upset about this, and why do you think he is?
But you've got the bootlicking Black woman. It's a substantial piece of land.
I gave Scott and his staff every opportunity to respond to my research. On March 26, 4 weeks before the article was published, I sent the staff many of the documents and an outline of my questions.
Put it to you this way. None of us knew about this article until we heard about it just now.
To discuss what I had found. I told the staff I was not trying to play gotcha. I was being completely transparent. And I even sent them a detailed list of every question I hoped he would answer. Ultimately, they said he was too busy to talk to me.
So, but why would a story about your ancestors being successful, especially at a time when the odds were so stacked against them, be viewed as a negative thing? I mean, you point that out in your piece. You point out that this was a remarkable achievement.
Right. Well, part of his political origin story is this story of coming from virtually nothing to the heights of the Senate. By his account, he was raised largely by a single mother in poor circumstances. And like I said, his story on the campaign trail was a bit too tidy for popular consumption. if I had been able to talk to him, I would have, he was 10 or 11 when his
politicians.
great-grandfather died. So I was curious if he had ever visited this farm and what his impressions of it were. And in fact, I could only, for the great-great-grandfather, he says he had 900 acres. I could only find records for about 170 acres. So I was wondering if that was a bit of family lore. And, he says his grandfather could not read or write, but the records indicate that his great-grandfather and his great-great-grandfather could read and write. So those were inconsistencies there, and maybe that's a little
These are different people. They're two generations removed from him.
Well, I want to point out that you say in your piece that black farmers often lost land because of disputes with relatives, unpaid tax bills, or a failure to obtain loans when crops failed. And there's been tremendous documentation about the discrimination that these farmers experienced with land bureaus.
Ostensibly,
openly, often to their faces, told them that they weren't going to help them, and then when they would help white farmers. One of the things that fascinated me about this piece is how some people from South Carolina in particular, political figures on both the right and the left, have been critical of this piece. The former South Carolina governor, the former UN ambassador Nikki Haley, called the piece shameful. She said on Twitter, when minorities refuse to be victims, disagree with liberal talking points, and think for ourselves, the media shames us and questions our credibility. But Bakari Sellers, a Democrat, a former South Carolina legislator, and many people probably see him as a political commentator on CNN, also tweeted, who thought this was a good idea? What do you make of that? Like, why would that be considered shocking or shameful or, upsetting? I mean, these genealogy shows, which are quite popular, often do the very same thing, and people find things out that they did not know. They may find out that an ancestor owned slaves, or they might find out that their ancestor sort of fought with distinction in the Civil War, in an all-black regiment or something of that sort. And people generally are interested in this information. They're not angry that it was discovered. So what's your take on the reaction to it?
Well, I think a lot of this is politics. I mean, the word racist, which appeared in a number of right-wing publications, it seems from Senator Scotter's background. We investigate the backgrounds of white politicians all the time. And certainly someone who is a potential candidate for president or vice president should expect a high degree of
doesn't like this part of the show.
But I have to admit, I was really surprised by the intensity of the reaction, much of which was fanned by Fox News.
I wasn't planning on running this
my
video
parents are from the Netherlands, and